Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I got a late start today because I was watching the Georgia-Alabama game last night, and man, it's been a rough morning. Those things can get, the Georgia-Alabama, or the SEC championship watch party in this part of the country, sometimes there's shots passed around and all that. I didn't have to deal with shots or anything, but still, it's a rough morning. Zero Hedge, is this World War III we're watching? Pentagon confirms U.S. warships, commercial ships under attack in the Red Sea. Boy, we live in some pretty wild times. Yet another great clip from the Black Swan capitalist guys. Watch this.
Liquidity is drying up. Cash is drying up. There's not enough cash to go around. The system demands that more cash be pulled into the system in enormous amounts, exponentially. It can't stay static. And this is why you're seeing things like expanding wars and whatever else they got to do to foster that illusion of liquidity. And then they're pulling liquidity out of the system as well. By design, they're killing it. They're deliberately collapsing the current system, in my view, to roll out a new one. And I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and we were talking about this very, very thing, how they're going to force people, or they're going to at least attempt to force people to accept the new system.
Oh yeah, I think you're onto something there. Now, this Caitlin Long was on Caitlin Long did a. She was with that, I'm trying to remember the name of it. She was on that show called something Bitcoin. It's called, anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, she has two great clips here. One of them where she actually talks about John Deaton's book and the XRP community.
So if you look at private non-financial sector debt, it's been a while since I've looked at the Fed's Z1, but it's something around 95 trillion. Okay, so I don't even know what the Fed's balance sheet is. I haven't paid that much attention to it, but long story short, it's not even close to 95 trillion. So literally, if the entire private sector debt were to default and the public sector debt was going to replace it, i.e. the Fed was going to expand its balance sheet to replace it just to keep the total amount of credit in the economy flat, the Fed could have a $95 trillion balance sheet. And we're not there yet, okay? But see, this is why why I phrased it as one of the most interesting questions is why hasn't the dollar collapsed yet? Because the Austrians will scream, and they did at the time, the moment that the U.S. went off the gold standard, dollar collapsed, and it hasn't happened. Why? Because we were bequeathed a tremendous balance sheet by our ancestors. And we had an equity-financed economy up until 1968 in the United States. And frankly, most of the rest of the world, because most of the rest of the world follows the dollar and follows the U.S. standard, whether explicitly or implicitly. And so, it used to be that your grandfather gifted you a Series EE savings bond in the 1950s. Now your grandparents are co-signing on your credit card. Okay, so we went from... when you come of age, we went from from being gifted assets to being gifted debt. And that's what's happening. And it's just now part of everybody's capital structure. But the erosion of real wealth that is coming from that is staggering. But it's been subtle, and it's been happening over 50 years. Literally, I was born in 1969, and the U.S. flipped from an equity-based economy to a debt-financed economy in 1968. So my entire life has been during where we've been eating the seed corn, so to speak. We've been drawing down the equity of the United States. But that's why those who called for a collapse.
Okay, interesting clip. Now, this one's even more interesting. This is about John Deaton and what he did with the XRP community.
And I just got done reading John Deaton's book. It's a phenomenal book. It's called Food Stamp Warrior. He's the lawyer who gathered 75,000 XRP holders to agree to be sued by the U.S. government. They intervened in the XRP case against the SEC to be 75,000 people from around the world agreed to become defendants against the U.S. government in that case. It's an incredible story, and I don't agree with John that he moved on from Bitcoin pretty fast because of the scaling issues. I don't agree with him there, but she's
got that part wrong. I think John is a Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP holder.
Phenomenally smart guy, and that book was a stunning book. And he grew up in the hood. He was one of 3 white people in his high school. And just what his experience of going from, he was a food stamp warrior, grew up in a very poor family, knew real hunger, and lifted himself up by bootstraps on boots he never even had. And it's just an incredible rags to riches story. But he is a fighter, and he is a perfect example of somebody who used his platform for good and pulled together 75,000 people to intervene in what he calls one of the strangest writs of mandamus ever filed in the U.S. court system. And he succeeded. And it's a phenomenal story. I highly recommend the book. It was such a page turner. It's a crypto adjacent book because he's obviously a well-known person in this space. And I don't want to get into the Bitcoin versus XRP thing, but I will say that he did an incredible service to all of us, and his point is well taken. He said, and I didn't know back then because I wasn't following it. He said this is going to impact the entire crypto industry. This XRP lawsuit, and he turned out to be right. So by fighting and by being a brass knuckle and literally brass knuckle, he's going to, if you read his book, you'll hear about his brass knuckle stories. He's a true fighter, and, became a U.S. Marine and then a prosecutor and ended up, he said, like, he was so successful in his law practice that he started to get bored by it. And then crypto became the thing that caused him to get out of bed in the morning. And he's not been making money off his crypto lawsuits. He did all of that because he was an XRP owner. And he said, look, what the SEC did was steal from people. That's his perspective. By calling XRP a security and having all the exchanges delist it, that was what he concluded, and he wanted to stand up and fight. And thank God he did. Thank God we have people like that in our industry.
Amazing.
Man, it would have been, that's very nice of her to say, but it sure would have been nice to have the rest of the industry on our side. By the way, the rest of the industry is still not on our side in that none of them, including her, will even speak the words ETHgate. But I saw this from the crypto meme guy, .free DAI. I appreciate that. I couldn't have worded it better myself. ETHgate was and still is a collaborative effort by certain VCs, incumbents, SEC, and MMM to give the Ethereum ecosystem time to flourish while pumping the brakes on Ripple. Until the people involved are brought to justice, the whole space is built on a lie. He is 1,000% right. This is what CNBC had on after the Hinman speech.
There's so many things that are very important about what the SEC said today that clears the way for, let's say, Ether.
What does that mean for like an XRP? An XRP, from the way I understand it, it's a technology solution that you don't necessarily need to use the coin to transact on the platform. So what happens to an XRP? How does a Ripple?
So XRP, I think, is still in limbo here. Whether or not XRP is a security, I think for that particular coin, we're going to have to wait on it because there's a relationship between Ripple the coin and Ripple the company.
Is there any trade in your view in terms of some of the coins that are there that were struggling in regulatory limbo and may now be considered commodities and so then may be listed on Coinbase and may get that pop?
I mean, the easiest is Ethereum, right? That's what's been overhanging this entire thing was Ethereum a security? Very clearly said it's not a security. So that to me is the best one.
According to Gary Gensler, Gary Gensler won't tell you. Now, this is a pretty cool clip right here also. This is Chris Giancarlo.
So the Digital Dollar Project is technologically neutral and fiercely so. Sure. What we are doing, however, is providing the opportunity for all the different ledgers to show their stuff, to experiment, to show their stuff and see what works. They're already doing that around the world. I mentioned there's over 100 different ones going on. many of them are using the different blockchains. And so, firms like R3 and others are out there talking all the time about their capabilities. We want to provide an opportunity for them to show their capabilities when it comes to a digital dollar here in the United States. And so the Digital Dollar Project is committed to creating opportunities for the different blockchains to show what they can do. But officially, we have no preference for one or the other. We don't, with that, those decisions will eventually come if the Fed goes down this road, and hopefully they'll look on the body of work that we've created to be able to determine the different pros and cons of the different blockchains.
Okay, now I'm about to go into the member group. It's daixrp.com. Today, things are about to really get hot here in the United States, folks. You're about to find out if we have a country left or if we don't. And you're about to find out if the word treason means anything anymore, because that's what we're looking at. That's what we're about to talk about in the group. And then we're also going to talk about what I would call, quote, the evil plan. And this is the evil plan that I believe that is in the works. And it's an evil plan against you, me, and all of what the evil people would consider the peasants of the world, to control us. And I'm going to talk about the evil plan. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell your friends and family. daixrp.com. The evil plan.